Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Thursday afternoon, May 4th, and the Kentucky Derby 2017 goes this Saturday. It's an interesting race, and we are going to get some expert analysis from Brian Zipse from Horse Racing Nation. His website is horseracing.nation.com. Brian Zipse from Horse Racing Nation. You're an expert on all of these horses, and you exhaustively analyze the Triple Crown every year, right?
That is true, Pete. That's one of my jobs. In fact, one of my more pleasurable jobs is following the trail to the Kentucky Derby, the most famous race, the most prestigious race in American racing.
Right, and so for your year-round job, you actually interview the jockeys and the trainers, and you interact with the horses, even, right?
Well, the horses don't always say much, Pete, but yeah,
right.
That's part of it. I write columns, I handicap, I interview, all of the above. I'm at the track.
Sounds good. Horse Racing Nation. All right. Well, we're going to need your analysis and insights here because this is it's a wide open field this year. Usually there's at least one horse, sometimes one or two, but usually at least one horse that's seen as the golden horse, the Triple Crown threat, the big overwhelming favorite. The question is, do you want to fade that horse or ride with that horse? And this year, that is absolutely not the case. There's no clear-cut favorite. Classic Empire and Always Dreaming, of course, are the two top choices, but both of them you can get upwards of 5-1, 6-1 on futures odds right now. Then McCraken and Irish War Cry, 7-1 each, and then you've got a whole bunch of horses, 14, 15-1, 20-1, and on down the line. So no clear-cut favorite in this race. Sometimes it's smart. It's actually a good thing when there's a big favorite because then you can just throw that favorite out, and if you're right, you're likely to wind up with a big payout. A lot of times, though, when there's no clear-cut favorite, I find that those are the Kentucky Derbies where the favorites actually do have some value.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes they do, and we're literally talking about 4 to 5 horses that I think will fall into maybe the 5-1 through 9-1, 10-1 range. There's certainly no heavy favorite. I wouldn't even be surprised. Most people are talking about Classic Empire, and he was installed the favorite, a slight morning line favorite. He's the 2-year-old champion, but I wouldn't be surprised if Always Dreaming or maybe even Irish War Cry by post time went off as the favorite. So, there's value everywhere. I think this race is a betting race because no matter who you like, you're going to find some value.
All right, so let's talk about the top two choices. Classic Empire, obviously on paper and from all the reports I've read, a legitimate elite horse for this field. 5 wins over 7 outings. Won the Breeders' Cup Juveniles yet in November, the Arkansas Derby. Just a course that looks like he's legitimately should be up there, and it's going to be a sort of an uncomfortable thing to try to exclude him from the top 3 finishers. What do you think? What do you think about the Classic Empire? Overvalued, undervalued, or appropriately valued?
I actually think there might be reason to bet against him, especially as a lukewarm favorite. If all things being equal, if all things were smooth for Classic Empire this year, I think he would probably be the horse to beat. But again, even then, I don't think he's heads and tails above this field. But he's had some things go wrong. This is the toughest race these horses will ever run, and certainly so early in their career. The fact that there's 20 horses, they're running farther than they ever have before. There's 160,000 screaming fans. It's a lot to take in. And the fact that Classic Empire certainly missed quite a bit of training this year in the spring, the fact that he had to kind of rush to get ready for the last big Derby prep, his win in the Arkansas Derby, it was nice. But I do wonder if that knocked him out just a little bit, where he will not be at 100%.
Right.
Certainly wouldn't be surprised to see him win, but on the other hand, as the favorite, even if it is 4 or 5, closing in on 6-1, I think there's good reason to try to beat him.
Yeah, that's how I was thinking as well. So maybe look to bet against Classic Empire in some matchup props. And then the other favorite, Always Dreaming, also about 6-1, looking a little bit better to my eye. The fastest horse in the Derby field officially in his number in the Florida Derby is the best 9 furlong time in the entire class. And of course, he got a great draw. The 5-hole is a post position that has a lot of success in past Kentucky Derbies. So Always Dreaming at about 5-1 or 6-1, maybe not overvalued, maybe worth a shot in exotics or even to win.
I'm a little bit against him as well.
Okay.
Always Dreaming. When we look at those post position, the history of the post position, you got to remember there have been a lot of Kentucky Derbies, not recently, but a lot over the years where there was only 8, 10, 12 horses.
Sure.
So I think there is a skewing towards the inside when you look at the history of a post position. 5 is not a bad post by any means, but he's basically a speed horse. He'll want to be pretty close to the early pace. And there is speed, legitimate speed inside him, close, and outside him. So there's going to have to be some work done. Now, Always Dreaming, like you said, that Florida Derby was absolutely terrific. But that was his first stakes attempt. He's very lightly raced. He's never really faced any adversity at all. And I think with the pace, with a lot of horses wanting to be close to the pace, and the fact that he doesn't have the experience or having not faced the adversity of some of the others, I think he might have a tough task trying to go the full mile and a quarter in a situation like this.
All right, so maybe we'll look to fade both of the lukewarm favorites. We'll take a look at some long shots with possible value in a second. Now let's just quickly look at Irish Warcry and McCraken, the third and fourth choices. Irish Warcry is a horse that does have some early speed. Might have actually done okay with an inside post, even at the one post. People talk about how the one post is just a dead post, but if anyone could have handled it, Irish Warcry. He drew the 17 post though, and he had a triple-digit buyer in the Wood Memorial, which is nice. I'm not sure if being so outside might hurt him here. What do you think about? What's your take on Irish Warcry at about 7 or 8 to 1?
Yeah, Irish Warcry is a progressive horse. He's certainly getting better. He's bred to run the mile and a quarter. He's had kind of a strange trail to the Kentucky Derby as well. He's had no problems, no hiccups along the way. But his 3 major preps, the 2 of them he won impressively and would be the favorite without a doubt if it wasn't for the one in between those 3. Mm-hmm. The Fountain of Youth was very disappointing. He never got to the lead, and he basically, what I would say, chucked the race. He backed out quickly. So we wonder what happened in the Fountain of Youth. Even the trainer, I talked to him the other day, he said he probably didn't like the cuppy nature of the track that day, but I think even he's scratching his head a little bit. So we worry that if the adversity of this Kentucky Derby, it's a race unlike any they'll ever run the rest of their lives, could get to him. We wonder if Irish Warcry, that could happen to him. I will say Irish Warcry has looked really good since arriving just a few days ago. Obviously, he's a horse getting better at the right time. 17 hole is probably not ideal for a speed horse, but on the other hand, all of the speed is quite a bit inside him. So he can break from the 17 hole, kind of control the pace from that outside auxiliary gate, and might get a very good spot, just a little bit wide, but get a good spot heading into the first turn.
All right, and then let's just quickly talk about McCraken, the other 7 to 1 choice. Already has a win over the course, right, at the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes. Somewhat disappointing third in the Bluegrass. What do you think of McCraken out of the 15 hole?
McCraken, I think, will be the 4th choice. You say 6, 7, 8, 9 to 1, maybe even. He's my top pick, Pete. I think McCraken is a horse for course for sure. He loves Churchill Downs. Actually, he's won 3 races here, all last year, but very impressive. The way he's been here for a few weeks now, no horses look better in the mornings getting over the track. I like McCraken. I like his running style. He'll be in the middle of the pack early, and that's how a lot of Kentucky Derbies are won. He'll make his move on the turn and hopefully strike to the lead as the field's coming around the final turn. His trainer has experience with Derby horses as an assistant. His jockey's red hot. I really like everything about McCraken. Also, his trainer is a patient guy who the last race doesn't mean a lot to me. He was building up to have him best on Kentucky Derby Day.
All right, so that's a factor that you weigh pretty heavily, a horse that has experience over the course and has shown excellence, has wins over the course?
Yeah, this is his home. This is where he is most of the year. He loves it here. He loves the track. That's only a plus, especially when we're talking about such a tough race.
All right. Okay. So of the 4 top choices, Classic Empire and Always Dreaming at about 6 to 1, and McCraken and Irish Warcry at about 7 to 1. If you had to bet only one of those, sounds like you're saying that the best value could be found with McCraken at about 7 to 1.
All 4 have a chance, but for me, there's no doubt in my mind McCraken has the best value of the 4 favorites.
All right, now let me ask you about another factor, which is the weather. And if there wasn't a possibility of some rain and some slop in the forecast, I wouldn't ask this. But in the weather reports that I've seen, there is a chance of rain. There's a storm that's supposed to be going over Louisville that day, and even a little bit of rain can turn the course into muddy or even sloppy. What's your take? Do you think that there is going to be a sloppy track? And if so, who does that hurt and who does that help?
Yeah, my guess is it won't be sloppy for Derby Day. I mean, things are changing quick here with the weather, but it looks like it's more likely to be sloppy tomorrow for Oaks, Friday for Oaks Day. Mm-hmm. So I'm handicapping more of a sloppy track on Friday. Churchill Downs track, better than any track in America, really dries out well. It's a surface that just gets dry quickly. So unless we really have a lot of rain in the last 3 or 4 hours, I think it'll be a drying out track that probably is not even muddy or sloppy come Derby. A lot of these horses are young horses. There's a few horses who have shown mud form in their past performances. I'm not going to handicap it a heck of a lot different, even if it is muddy. I still think it'll be a strong pace where horses are really getting tired, and it still could set up even on a wet track for the horses coming from behind.
All right, sounds good. So now let's talk about long shots. Everyone loves to talk about these and surmise. Of course, we've seen some eye-popping numbers in the top 3 in the Kentucky Derby in recent years. I'm thinking about maybe Hence or J-Boy's Echo. J-Boy's Echo ran a triple buyer in the Gotham, so I'm thinking about them. If it's muddy, I would look towards Gormley. I've been reading that Gormley has a pedigree for to do well in the mud. But as of right now, just my initial thoughts are thinking about taking shots with long shots Hence and J-Boy's Echo, either in matchup props or in exotics. What long shots have caught your eye that might have some nice value one way or the other?
Yeah, Hence is very interesting, and I think he's interesting to a lot of people. He's what we call the wise guy horse right now, Pete. Mm-hmm. He's a horse that won a big race. The Connections really always liked this horse a lot, and he took his time to kind of learn the game. He ran some very interesting, good races early on. He threw in a few bad races, but in the Sunland Derby, they took him farther off the pace, and it was really a fantastic performance that only looks better after you factor in what the horses that ran second and third and fourth have done in their races since then. This will be Hence's first race since then, and really looks good in the track. He's from Connections, who have 3 horses in the Kentucky Derby. I'm talking about the Steve Asmussen barn, and I know from the trainer and the assistant trainer there that Hence is truly the one that they're excited about. Having said that, another one of their 3, Looking at Lee, who did draw the 1 post, which is a little bit of a negative, but maybe for him less so than others would be. I think Looking at Lee will be one of those horses that's really rolling late, probably will be even higher than Hence, and I think he is one of the other live long shots in a race where betting long shots to me makes a lot of sense with the wide open nature, topsy-turvy results in the preps, and several interesting long shots.
All right, so your 2 favorite long shots are Looking at Lee and Hence. I'm seeing both 20-1 right now.
Yeah, both. I think Hence might get played a little bit more leading up to the race, but yeah, those are my top 2. I do like Tappert a little bit. I even like the maiden Sonneteer, who should be balloons. Yeah, he's actually an experienced, well-bred, good-looking colt who's getting better and better. His last 2 races, despite still not winning. One of them, he just got beaten recently by a couple lengths by Classic Empire in the Arkansas Derby. They're showing me that he's a horse that's getting good at the right time, and a 1.25 miles should be right up his alley. So, I'm licking my chops using Sonneteer and exotics because I think he's a horse that will run a great chance that he's a horse that runs a decent race at really, really big odds.
All right. Are there any long shots that other people are talking about maybe having some long shot value that you actually disagree with, that you wouldn't really want to touch?
I'm not touching the speed in here. I'm not touching horses that I really worry about 10 furlongs. Fast and Accurate's going to be a big one. I don't think anybody's talking about him. But maybe State of Honor is another one of the speed horses who's a nice horse, and I think in certain situations he's going to do some big things, but not here in the Derby with this pace. I really don't like Untrapped as another long shot. Even on the outside, I'm leaning against horses like Practical Joke and Patch. Nice horses, but I worry about Practical Joke, 10 furlongs. I don't think he's a 10 furlong horse. Patch is so inexperienced. The one-eye horse, I think, is going to have a hard time in this Derby.
All right, and what do you think about my long shot, J-Boy's Echo? If someone runs a triple digit in the Gotham, does that mean something to you or not that much?
It doesn't mean a heck of a lot. I think it was a weak Gotham this year, and sometimes, the horses, depending on the track condition and the setup of the race, can look a little bit better in raw numbers than others. J-Boy's Echo, I don't think was ever the best horse in the barn. The Romans barn, of course, is native Louisvillian. Dale Romans often does well in Derby. He's never won the Derby, but he's had a lot of horses finish 3rd, 4th, 5th in the Derby. And J-Boy's Echo, I could see him running a good race, but I just don't trust that he's as good as a lot of these. He should be okay at 1.25 miles. I wouldn't talk anybody off of Jay Boyzak, though. I think he's probably one of the middle-of-the-road horses, though, for me.
All right, sounds good. So let's summarize everything you've said. How, as of right now, are you thinking about betting this race?
Well, there is one horse I would mention. I think he probably will get bet down a little bit lower as we go, and that, I guess he's the 5th choice now in most things that I've seen. That's Gunnevera.
Yeah.
I think Gunnevera is a 1.25 mile horse. I think he will be running late. I think he's one of the most likely horses to hit the board. So if you're betting things like head-to-head or trying to get him into the exotics, I think Gunnevera makes a lot of sense. Maybe he'll be about 10-1. So I will be using Gunnevera quite a bit. McCraken is my main play. I will be spreading both trifectas, superfectas, even exactas, and my multi-race wagers. McCraken on top, Gunnevera quite a bit. I'm going to throw in Irish Warcry as one of the other favorites, but I will definitely be using quite a bit. Hence, looking at Lee, Taprit, and Sonneteer, maybe even a little bit of Battle of Midway.
So why do you think Gunnevera is actually not one of the top choices then at about 14-1? I was sort of scratching my head with him a little bit. Again, like you said, he has a nice closing speed. I could easily see him closing, if not to win, into the top 3.
Yeah, I think if people were betting just to run into the top 3 or 4, Gunnevera could even be the favorite. He's that type of horse. He's coming off a race which wasn't his best, the Florida Derby, but I think everything was against him that day. Wide post, moderate fractions on a real speed track. Always Dreaming kind of got out there and the race was over. Gunnevera was too far back, but in the Derby being that far back, I think is not a bad thing. They're running farther. There's more pace pressure for the early horses. So I think Gunnevera just makes a lot of sense. The only reason he's 14-1 on your line is because of his last race. And I don't mind the last race. He kept coming against things against him, and he still got up for 3rd. I think the Derby he could even do better than that.
All right, yeah, sounds good. So he might be one of these classic situations you see all the time in all kinds of betting where there's a little bit too much emphasis being put on recent results. So I'm kind of agreeing with you there, Gunnevera. Thinking about using him in matchup props. All right, so just to sum up, I like to bet matchup props in the Triple Crown races. That's you bet one horse against another horse just straight up. So if the horse you bet comes in 8th place and the horse you're betting against comes in 9th place, you win your bet anyway. So in general, the horses that you see as a little bit undervalued with possible betting value are McCraken, Gunnevera, and Hence. And also you're looking at Lee in there, huh?
Yeah, and I think, again, for head-to-head matchups, all 4 make sense. I see this Derby like a lot of derbies, maybe not so much the last few derbies where the horses that were more front runners were just clearly the best horses, but more derbies than not, especially if you're talking about 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th place. These horses are rallying. They're passing tired horses. All of those 4 that you just mentioned for me, McCraken, Gunnevera, Hence, looking at Lee, are horses that will be passing, even if they don't run their best race, they should be passing a lot of horses that you probably have against them in the head-to-head matchups.
All right, and you have no problem fading either of the top 2 choices, Classic Empire and Always Dreaming.
At the odds. I do fear them a little bit. If they run their best race, they're dangerous. But, yeah, we're talking about gambling at the odds and head-to-head matchups. Yes.
All right. Brian Zipse from HorseRacingNation.com. Thanks so much. Great show.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do